Hello and welcome to Drive It Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's episode, be sure to check us out over at patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast, where you get to hear us unscripted, off the wall, saying the craziest things, but you have to pay $5 a month to hear that. So if you want to hear us say insane takes, like you're gonna get instantly angry when you hear these episodes, pay $5 and you help
Wait,
support the show.
wait, Nathan, you said where it's unscripted. What about all those scripts you had me write?
We don't need to talk about that. They don't have to know that. Our acting is just so good it sounds unscripted. But this Tuesday we are getting into Phase 4 from 1974, directed by Saul Bass.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. I'll go ahead. This is an ant movie. So we've
Well,
talked. Oh, go
I
ahead.
do I do want to pause you, right? That was being funny, but I do want to say I actually am a fan of like Saul Bass and his art.
Hmm.
So Saul Bass is, he's the director of this movie, but I think
Hmm.
he's more so known as an artist, first and foremost, because he's made a lot of iconic like movie posters and title designs.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what he's most known for, is for like the opening sequence to Psycho with like the white lines and like a lot of classic movies like Frankenheimer films, Hitchcock. He did a lot of title
Uh,
sequences for those.
One of my favorite posters that he did was actually Anatomy of a Murder, and it's
Yes,
like
yeah.
it's like that it's the chalk outline or like the dead body kind of like outline. I really like that
Yeah.
one.
And it like has like the orange background, right? Yeah. No, that
Yeah,
one's just like a classic. It stands out. And then I think Spike Lee ripped off of it for a movie, and that was like a whole debacle. I should.
Spike Lee ripping off another movie. That doesn't sound like him.
Well, see, he can rip off a movie, but don't rip off of his. That's
No,
totally off limits.
don't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But no, yeah, Saul Bass, I think that's what he's mostly known for. And I say that because he directed this feature film, and that's it. Like he was in and out as far as feature films go. Um, Actually, I didn't know he was tied to this movie when I picked it. I only knew this movie as a killer ant movie, and it sounded like a lot of fun. It's streaming on the Criterion channel. And we've talked about killer ants movies. We talked about them,
Mhm.
yeah, which was a lot of fun. So why not check this one out? But they're not giant, but the way the photography is, they look giant, right? So this movie is a mix of a live action and nature documentary. And I was me and Ryan kind of have this joke that like I accidentally pick like art house movies that nobody can understand, or not nobody, but sorry, that is hard to talk about. And I was really scared at first because it was literally a narrator and you're just watching ants in a colony. And I was like, "Oh God, did I just pick something so unexplainable?" It
I
does have a plot, luckily.
I was that first like 20 minutes. I'm like, all right, here we go. Like we're gonna have to try to talk about ants for like 80 minutes, like described ant action.
Yeah, but no, luckily people come into this plot. There is a story here. But I do think the ant stuff is really neat because it is close-up looks, like looking at ants doing ant things, rubbing themselves, walking around, and somehow they take this footage and they do give it a cinematic edge. Like you do like see ants moving and you kind of understand where they're coming from, like if they're tunneling away from a building or something. It's actually a really interesting thing to do in a movie. I've never quite seen anything like it.
Yeah, like the macro shots on a lot of
Hmm.
these ants when it's just like they do these like, intense close up of these ant heads or like do like an ant point of POV shot or
Hmm.
they just you'll see like a bunch of other ants like up and they're all like different ants too. They're never the same one. So it'll be like there's
Hmm.
black ants, there's like these translucent looking ones.
Hmm.
It looks really good. That's probably like the best part of the movie for me is like, just how artistic a lot of those shots look.
No, I agree. And I think it's crazy that they even had the thought to do this movie and do it like this. Because when I think of like the concept, we think about them because that's what we've seen. Um, this movie is a sci-fi movie that takes itself quite seriously. It's like a 2001 A Space Odyssey type deal where it's like dead serious. There's not a, there's camp, but it definitely doesn't mean for there to be any camp. Um, and yeah, I mean, it tries to base itself in science. It's quite interesting because what happens is at the beginning of the movie, I guess there's like a solar something happens. They don't really explain it, but I think it has something to do with the sun. I don't know, but ants become super intelligent. And now humans have to go in and figure out what's going on here because the ants are consuming like cows and destroying crops and taking over the world. Because I guess the idea is that ants, there are millions of them, and if they were that smart, they could just wipe us all out if they wanted to.
If your favorite part from all the monster movies is the scenes where they're like in the room, like saying science babble, this is definitely the movie for you because there's a lot of that in this movie where they're just the two guys sitting in a room, just just talking about ants and how it's science.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like talking about like radio waves and stuff. And like I saw in the factoids everywhere, like that's a fact that kept popping up. The computers in this movie are real. And they're like the giant 70s
Yeah,
computers, and it's them messing with those. Um, yeah, you're right. I guess I never thought about it like that. Like as far as like the yeah, you like techno babble, you got that here. Um, with a little bit of weird, like let's save a random girl plot
well,
in the
yeah,
middle there.
because I mean, like there's all these ants like coming to this farmland, and they're telling everybody that lives on this like on out in this countryside, like, hey, like there's a bunch of ants coming. We're going to be doing experiments on them, so you better get out of here,
Hmm.
type of thing. And they're like, no way, we're not getting out of here. Like we're not afraid of no ants. And then of course, but no, yeah, the ants start wreaking havoc, and then like there's a scene where like the couple's like driving away and they get eaten up by ants.
Yeah, it's like because they're getting away, but then uh-oh, the ants are on them still, and it makes them crash the car. And then so the two scientists have come to look at the ants. They have it domed off. It's like a giant dome. And I guess at the same time that they show up, they spray this like acid on the ants to kill them, but they also kill the humans too. Except for the
Yeah,
teenage girl who hides away in time.
right. So and that whole thing, like it shows like how different, like like one of the guys is, he's like kind of like, like kind of like the everyman type of
Mhm.
character. He's like the one that we're supposed to, I guess, identify with the most. And then you have this other scientist guy who's like very cold and about the science. And like you said, like when all those people die, he's like, okay, all these people are dead, so let's move on to the next experiment. And the guy's like, no, like all these people are dead. Like, what are you like?
Yeah, I
Like,
think that's
do you not understand the weight of what just happened? And
yeah,
he's like, well, I sympathize with them, but we must move on. And I'm like, and he's just like, what are you talking about?
yeah, I kind of love that scientist character. He reminds me of like something from like 20,000 Leagues in a way, just like I don't care, whatever. I'm a scientist. Like I think he literally sees the dead body and it's just like, all right. And then he looks over. He's like, "Hey, come over here. Look at this. Look what the ants did over here." It's actually, I thought it was quite funny, especially as we get later in the movie. We're kind of hopping around, but I think that's okay for this one. But he gets bit by an ant, and his arm is like mutating, like it's like bulging out, and like
Yeah,
he has to hold it around, and he doesn't care. He's just like, "Nope, we got to deal with these ants." What? Like the other guy can ask him what's going on with his arm. He could care less.
yeah, not the most sensitive guy.
No. But what I think is funny about this movie, or how I would explain it to somebody else, is like I love that the theme is like they come in to experiment on the ants, and then at some point I think one of them says, "Wait, are the ants experimenting on us?" Just like the most like like a weird twist in this. But that's kind of what it is, because like the ants they built like monoliths, right? Like they built these
Yeah,
giant monoliths, and they can reflect the sun, and they're like, okay, if we're gonna reflect the sun on the dome, and we're gonna like break their AC, which
It's like the ants use the magnifying glass on them.
oh my god, yeah, this movie's smart. Uh, but no, which I think is really funny. Like I there's something about it that even though it has like this silly concept, I personally I had fun with it. I thought it was a good time. It seemed like you might not have had the same experience.
Well, if you take Saul Bass's last name and take the B out of it, then you have my exact opinion of this
Oh my
movie.
god.
No, no,
Yeah.
I, I was pretty bored by it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I really wasn't a fan. I even for me, like this movie's not even 90 minutes, and I was feeling the length of it pretty bad.
No, and I get that because it definitely is it's a slow burn, that's for sure. Because like they just sit and talk, and they even tried to add this element because that girl that was hiding, she ends up going to the dome with them, and she does nothing. She walks around. She's kind of the reason why the because they actually take some ants to experiment on. They have a farm, and I guess she gets triggered by the sight of the ants and she starts smashing
Yeah,
them. And that's like the reason the ants are even in the dome because they're like biting like wires and breaking the computers and everything. Which those scenes are really cool with the ants biting the wires and like the praying mantis is like watching over them. It's really neat.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's not it. You know, as much as I didn't like the movie, I do have to. I do really like the visuals of this movie a lot. It does show me a lot of stuff that I wouldn't normally see in a movie. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, I wouldn't normally think to see something like that.
All right, but hear me out. Let's say it was all and. How would you feel about it? Do you think it'd be a better movie?
Yes.
I think so too. I so when I watched it, I mean I really enjoyed it, but I was like, I wish there was more ant stuff. I there wasn't as much as I would want.
Well, like you said, like I would watch the ant footage and I would be pretty interested in what they were showing me. I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I like this. And then when they would go back to the two scientists, I was just like, it felt very repetitive for me in a lot of ways
Mm,
because there is a lot of like the two guys talking in that same laboratory all the time. And
yes.
I, like I said, at a certain point, I was just like, okay, like I feel like I've gotten all I really need to out of this. And,
You don't like
but
them hopping back and forth between, oh, the ants are after us. Okay, we got the one up on them, and then just repeat that over and over again.
yeah, well, you know, they made it interesting. They threw in the girl. So it's like, hell, hey,
Oh
it's not
yeah.
just it that they so innovative, add in the third character.
Whoa, and she's not interesting too? That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Don't give her any personality other than she's triggered by ants.
Yeah, because like I think the every man character is like, oh, she's in shock. We need to get her out of here. And I remember thinking, like, really? She's in shock? She's just kind of walking around.
She seems pretty fine.
Yeah. Because that's another bit of this where the guy is like constantly like, we need to get a helicopter over here. We need to get a helicopter. And of course the other guy's like, yeah, I called it. Wink. I wouldn't do that. Wink. We're getting it over here. But he doesn't want it compromised at all. You're right, because now I'm sitting here thinking about this movie, and there's not like a lot of like pivotal scenes that I could pick out, really.
No, I mean, like I said, I mean, the movie, like the ant visuals are so, yeah, like I said, like my favorite part, and
Hmm.
it's hard for me to even like describe them because it's they're you know it's like it's an
Yeah.
ant, so like what can you say about an ant or what they're doing? It's just an ant, but it's shot very well. So
Exactly. Yeah. And like the way it's framed is like sometimes they'll be just walking or like pushing something. And it's hard to explain like over a podcast. It's definitely that part is very just visual. It's hard to like tell you, but it is that part is really neat. And I think that's where like a lot of the impressive parts of this movie comes from. And we said that a million times, but
well, yeah.
that is this movie.
I mean, there is some interesting bits. So like they like towards the end of the movie, like they get out of the lab, and then I think the older scientist, I think his name is Hobbs or something,
Yeah, I think so.
and he falls into like a pit, like the ants created like a little like
Hmm.
And then he gets just like you just see like all like them dumping ant. I think they had to dump live ants on them, maybe.
I don't think I could do that.
Or do you think it was live ants, or you just think it was just like dirt, and they're just like, oh, it's ants or something? And
I don't know actually, or a bunch of dead ants.
yeah, maybe.
I
What are you
don't
gonna get
know.
dead ants?
I know you might as well do live ones. But no, I could please like if I ever was in a movie, I really hope like that's maybe a time would be like, yeah, you can use CG. Don't dump the real ants on me. But I guess they didn't have that back then.
Hey, you pay me enough, you could dump ants on me all day.
Really, what's your price?
Uh, that's throw out a number.
50,000.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah. You know what? Maybe, but they can't bite me. They can't be the biting type. I
You
think
don't
all
want
ants bite.
fire?
No, no, no fire ants. That one you make just add like an extra 10K.
Yeah, I mean that's
No.
that's where the real fear comes from. This movie is just you remembering all those ant bites you got like as a kid, like
Oh
you
God.
maybe like that time you accidentally stepped on an ant hill, and then you get eaten up.
Yeah, and they
I
were
I
all
got
inside of you.
I got all kinds of ant stories. Okay,
You have ant
uh,
stories? Yeah. Well, my
like
my aunt lives in a different state.
yeah.
Sorry, bad comedian. Go ahead.
If you thought these ants are bad, wait until you see my uncles.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Oh man, what good times.
Yeah, great. Good memories all around, right? Um, but yeah, no, that's kind of like the end of the movie is like, everything falls apart, of course. The ants do come. I think they end up leaving. The old scientist, he dies. And then it's kind of a monologue. You think the movie is over where the dude like the everyman, I think it might be Hubs.
Is that his name? Or maybe I got him mixed up.
Yeah, I don't know, but he's out there and he's like, "Oh, well, we got to kill him. Maybe we could reach an understanding." Because that's his deal, is he's trying his hardest to make communication waves so he could talk to ants. And that's kind of where the technobabble comes from, because he's like, if this waveform enters their waveform and we can push them together and we can speak to the ants, but everything falls apart before he can speak to the ants, so they kill him. But the movie actually ends with him falling down a hole, and the girl from like the girl they've been with has holes in her hands, and I guess the ants are inside her body controlling her, which is like what I want more of that. That's kind of
Yeah.
an interesting deal, but the movie ends like pretty quickly after that.
You think Ratatouille stole from this?
I think so, yeah. But it'd be a little more brutal if Remy was like with his other rat buddies and a buddy.
Like yeah, Remy like burrowing through like Linguini's skull like to control him.
Yeah, that sounds very Piscar-esque. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, pick Pixar.
What did I say?
I don't know. Maybe you said Pixar. Maybe I
I
said
don't. I
something.
probably didn't. I probably said Piscar or something.
But they do have some more of a brutal scenes like that. I mean, there's like two scenes where there's like a dead animal, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna have like these," and it's like a time lapse of the ants like eating them alive.
Yeah, I thought that's right. That was interesting. What are the animals they eat? Yeah,
One
it's like
was like
smaller.
one was a goat, I think,
That's
was
right. Yes. Yeah.
because there was a dead goat in the beginning of the movie, and I think the next one was just like a rat or a mouse or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Which yeah, that's just brutal to see, but like I guess also kind of an interesting nature. But like I guess like the thing about movies is like they set that up to happen with the camera. And I hope that the goat was already dead. Same with the rat. They
Well,
just
you know
got like a dead animal.
the good thing about ants is they use every part of the animal.
Oh, yes, I do agree. No. Are you an ant fan, by the way? Do you have like an ant like farm or anything?
I like Ant Man.
You like Ant-Man? You like Paul Rudd?
I do.
I get it. I get it.
And I did have an ant farm
Oh
when I
no,
was
yeah,
younger.
genuinely, yeah, I was interested. I never had one, but I
They all
guess
died.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that. It's probably
Well, I
hard
mean,
to take care of them.
you wouldn't expect them to be alive now, would you? Do ants live that
That'd be
long?
funny if you flipped your
Like,
camera and you're
it's
you're
just
like,
like
yeah, here they
these
are.
like yeah, like some 30-year-old ants.
How long do ants live for? This movie should have just been an ant documentary.
well,
What?
I I think a good thing to close out on, Nathan, is a thing we haven't done in a long time with one of these animal themed movies, and that's I got some ant jokes.
Oh, yes. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, how many ants are needed to fill an apartment?
How many?
10 ants.
Stupid. I love it though.
Uh, what do you call a 100-year-old ant?
What?
Antique.
Antique. I was thinking ancient or something like that.
What do you call an ant from overseas?
What?
Important.
Okay. All right. We're pushing it here.
All right. Well, all right. Well, okay. Well, last one. What do you call an army ant?
A lieutenant?
Yeah, that was his next joke. That was like, what do you call a top-ranking ant in the military? But what do you call an army ant? Is militant.
Militant. Oh, okay. I went ahead on the joke. I like
Yeah,
completely
you
ruined it.
saw you had the foresight.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You know a good ant joke when you see one.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I have foresight for, not for picking good movies. I'm just kidding. No, but I guess yeah, there isn't like a crazy amount to say about Phase 4. But it is a really interesting movie. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was really neat. I thought it was a cool little relic. I loved seeing the ant stuff. I do think the human plot could have been better, or maybe could have been taken over a little more by the ants. But I think it's ambitious, and I always enjoy a nice ambitious movie. Yeah,
Now, would you recommend?
ant-vicious.
Would you actively tell people to watch this movie? Would you recommend it? Like
Uh,
if someone comes up to you, hey, I got this phase 4 on my watch list, Nathan. You think I should watch it?
well, what if I told you I might have already recommended it to somebody? So that makes it a
Oh no.
yes.
Wait,
Yeah,
did you really?
yeah, for real, I did. So it automatically becomes a yes, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that's I okay. I do appreciate good visuals. So that doesn't mean I completely hated it, but I was not a fan of this one. I was pretty bored, like I said, throughout most of the time. So this is where we're going to differ. So that means we're
Oh
probably not going to be
no.
talking after this podcast is done recording until
No,
Thursday.
this is just so we can have later on for the Patreon, we can just have an episode about times we disagree.
Probably would be a good idea, but
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
anyway, no, I would not recommend this one.
All right. Well, that is okay, Ryan. You can be wrong all you want. No, I'm just kidding. I totally get it. But Ryan, what are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're not gonna be talking about ants anymore. We're gonna be talking about some nice young ladies.
Yeah, young ladies.
Yeah, I mean, I am such a big Xbox fan that we're going to be talking about the video game movie DOA colon Dead or Alive, because why not? And that is streaming for free right now on Tubi.
Awesome. Well, you know I'm excited to watch that one. But if you want to tweet at us, you can tweet at us over at DIDF Pod. You can also email us with any movie recommendations at drivein double feature podcast at gmail.com. And until next time.
Until next time.